If you're anything like me, you spend most of the NFL season criticizing all the stupidity when it comes to coaching decisions. One thing we don't really do? Give enough love where it's deserved for the coaches that absolutely love our fantasy team. So in this show, 10 coaches that love your fantasy squad.
Yeah. Analytics off the chain, all the channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game.
What is going on, Headline Nation? Jake, Fantasy Liners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. Today we're talking about 10 coaches who actually like your fantasy football team. And when we spend so much time throughout the NFL regular season discussing all the bad coaching decisions, we don't actually show love when it's deserved to the coaches who actually kind of help our fantasy team. So that's what we're going to be doing here today. I can remember sitting in this exact seat, staring at this exact camera, like literally direct eye contact, trying to speak into the soul of some NFL head coaches because of the stupidity when it came to play calling. But time to give back a little bit, try to show some positivity here. So we got 10 coaches that absolutely love your fantasy team. Now, before we get into this list, just a quick reminder, we are sponsored by Manscaped. If you're looking for some awesome products that are not just ball trimmers, sure, that's what everybody knows they have, but they got lip balm now, they got deodorant now, shampoo, body wash, doesn't matter what you need, they have you covered. And make sure you use our promo code Headliners at checkout. There's a link down below in the description. It'll give you 20% off your order and free shipping, so don't miss out on that. But now let's get into the rankings. We're going to start at the bottom. We're going to build anticipation. Let's go ahead in here and start at number 10. And this is where I got Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, you may be starting off these rankings and you're already scratching your head. You're like, what the hell was he talking about? Mike Tomlin, really? But think about it. When you're looking at coaches that love your fantasy football team, it's because they bring consistency to the table. We know what their game plan is. We know the players they want to utilize, and they do it every single week, which means we have to make less guesses when it comes to fantasy football, which makes our lives a whole lot easier. So when you look at Mike Tomlin, what did we say in the preseason? We knew Diontae Johnson, he was going to be in line for some big targets. What about Najee Harris? Same thing, right? He was going to go out there and get all the touches in the backfield. Did it work out that way? Of course it did. We knew every single week. Now, were the targets going to be quality targets from Ben Roethlisberger? That's a completely different question, and those were things that we addressed last offseason. However, coming into the season, we had a game plan for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. They followed it basically to a T. Now, the likes of Chase Claypool, he underperformed, but we knew coming in that he was kind of going to be one of those bigger play, boomer bust type guys. Sure, Juju went out there at one point and we expected a lot more of Claypool. Didn't exactly happen consistently, but we didn't expect it coming into the season. We didn't all of a sudden catapult guys up rankings and then were severely depressed when they didn't perform. We knew that Najee Harris coming into the year and Diontae Johnson were going to be the guys. They were. Mike Tomlin right here at number 10 for me. Number 9, Andy Reid, Kansas City Chiefs. And now everybody out there in YouTube land is going, what the hell? Like this guy's lost it. The Chiefs, you're putting them all the way down at number 9. Do you even watch football, bro? Yeah, I actually watch a lot of football. I actually do it for a living. And if anybody watched the Kansas City Chiefs here this year, you know that their offense just looked different. Had they been figured out by opposing defenses, that is one thing. Of course, people kind of saw the blueprint from the playoffs last year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers really getting after Patrick Mahomes. Now, Andy Reid continues to want to be a big play offense. The reason I had him drop down here to number 9, you still had at times a mixture in the backfield with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Darrell Williams. You also saw the ball being spread around a lot more this year. There were weeks when Travis Kelce disappeared and didn't get the target volume in which we thought that he would. There were weeks when Tyreek Hill wasn't really overly involved in the game plan. There were weeks that we were utilizing the likes of Byron Pringle. Nobody had him on their fantasy roster, so it kind of led to a few headaches from time to time. The offense there, Patrick Mahomes, obviously one of the best in football, but when it came to making fantasy decisions, we were having to make them because we had to, right? You don't sit Travis Kelce, you don't sit Tyreek Hill, but we always didn't have that warm fuzzy on the inside. That's why I dropped Andy Reid down a few spots. Number 8, Bruce Arians of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, really, Bruce made the list because of his commitment to a running back. We saw this coming into the year. We kind of expected it. It looked like Leonard Fournette, after finishing last year, was going to come in and be the guy in this offense, and he was. They weren't getting too cute and trying to cycle in Ronald Jones too much or Keyshawn Vaughn. Gio Bernard started to get a little bit of a role, and then they realized, no, this is Leonard Fournette's backfield until he got hurt. So the commitment there really kind of raised up Bruce Arians a little bit. We already knew about the passing offense. We knew about Tom Brady. We knew about Mike Evans. Sucks that Chris Godwin got hurt, but he was playing great beforehand. The Antonio Brown saga, I don't know if anybody saw it playing out that way, Bruce Arians included, but overall we knew what to expect in this offense. We knew a lot of points would be scored. We knew in the direction in which they would be going, so it wasn't too much of a surprise for us. Got Bruce Arians at number 8. Which takes us to number 7, Kyle Shanahan, San Francisco 49ers. Some may be thinking that he should be a little bit higher, but honestly, the reason I have him drop down a couple spots was more so because of the front half of the season, the beginning of the season. Coming in to preseason, to the first week, a lot of people love themselves some Brandon Ayuk, and we tried to say, hey, listen, Deebo Samuel's going to be the guy. I made a breakout video, had Deebo in it, said, hey, you're kind of liking Deebo more than Ayuk, and we kind of saw why here this year. Kyle Shanahan, one of the most creative offensive minds in the NFL, knows how to utilize players. But we also know that coming into the season, there's going to be a running back by committee type, situation in this backfield. We had the start of Raheem Mostert, and what was going to happen with Trey Sermon, and then Elijah Mitchell was in the mix, and who's really going to start every single. It was kind of a headache to start the season. I had to bump Kyle Shanahan back up a couple spots, though, because as the season progressed, we saw more and more Elijah Mitchell, who thrived in that backfield, and we also saw him stay committed to their best option in one Deebo Samuel. Now, another reason he's a little bit lower, George Kittle at times turned into a blocking tight end. Not ideal for fantasy football, but overall, pretty consistent for the year. Got Kyle Shanahan at number 7. Number 6, Sean McDermott, Buffalo Bills, another one of these guys that has kind of moved up these ranks for me later in the season. Reason being, he dedicated himself to Devin Singletary for the first time in this offense, and all of a sudden, Singletary started to produce. We know every single week that Josh Allen is a stud. We know that every single week Stephon Diggs is going to get targets. Now we can start to count on Devin Singletary in the running game on a weekly basis as the season led up to the playoffs, and it helped a lot of people there throughout the fantasy playoffs. We showed that consistency throughout the year in the passing game. Josh Allen has a lot to do with that, 100%, but the offense gives him that opportunity to go out there and put up a lot of points. So that's why Sean McDermott right here at number 6, which means we'll crack into the top 5. And I have Mike Vrabel of the Tennessee Titans at number 5. Not exactly offensive juggernaut when you think of Mike Vrabel, but think about the preseason. What did we have? We had Derrick Henry, we had A.J. Brown, and then we had Julio Jones brought into the mix late. But we knew coming into the season that Mike Vrabel is not going to, scale back Derrick Henry's usage. They're going to continue to give the guy huge volume, and he's going to score huge points, and that's exactly what happened. We knew that A.J. Brown was going to continue to be the alpha in this offense from a passing perspective, and he was. They're giving him deep ball opportunities weekly. They're giving him that potential ceiling. They're giving him targets inside the red zone, which is something we can kind of plan for here coming into the season. And as the season went on, it's exactly how we had expected it. Now, obviously, the injury to Derrick Henry, not ideal, but what happened after the injury? There was a lot of, speculation. Who's it going to be? Jeremy McNichols? Is it going to be Donta Foreman? What's it going to be? Well, it was Donta Foreman, and he committed to another running back, and it was another guy who was usable throughout the second half of the fantasy season. Now, no. He was no Derrick Henry by any means, but at least you knew what you were going to get weekly. A running back that's going to get right around 15 touches, some goal line opportunities, and an offense that doesn't score a lot, but at least you had an idea going into the week of what to expect from your players, and you weren't always guessing, hey, is this guy even going to touch the ball? Mike Vrabel, from that perspective, very consistent, and that's why I got him at number 5. Number 4 is going to be Matt LaFleur of the Green Bay Packers. Now, another one of these high-powered offenses led by Aaron Rodgers. What about the backfield mess, right? What was it going to be? Aaron Jones or A.J. Dillon? A lot of people had A.J. Dillon's name circled before the season as being the guy to really finish this season and be kind of a fantasy, championship winner late in the season for a lot of people. Aaron Jones is still that guy. And we tried to tell people that before the season started, that listen, they paid this guy too much money to not use him every single week. If he's healthy, he's still getting the lion's share of the volume in Green Bay. And it happened. He still produced. He was a high-quality running back there for the weeks that he was healthy. We know that Davante Adams is going to be peppered with targets every single week. Does that have a lot to do with Matt LaFleur? Probably has a little bit more to do with Aaron Rodgers, but LaFleur gives Rodgers that freedom to kind of do what he wants. Going into the season, we had a couple players circled here for the Green Bay Packers: Davante Adams, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, and as the season progressed, they continued to produce each week that they were out there. And it's kind of one of those, we know what to expect. It's not too much of a guessing game. At times, I guess you could say, who's the number 2 in Green Bay? Are they going to use Randall Cobb? Is it Allen Lazard? Is it MVS? But honestly, none of those guys ever really counted on for fantasy football. They were more of a deep league flex at best each and every week anyway. So it didn't really, hurt the people who took a gamble on some Packers players early. So Matt LaFleur is right here at number 4. Which means it's time to crack into the top 3. Number 3 is going to be Sean McVay of the Los Angeles Rams, and another one of these high-powered offenses. We knew what to expect in the passing game. We knew they were going to utilize Cooper Kupp. He was one of our must-haves in 2021. Then all of a sudden, midseason, they bring in Odell Beckham. We know they lost Robert Woods, but Van Jefferson started to turn into a thing weekly where we could kind of pencil him in as a low-end multi-flex wide receiver 3 each and every week. We kind of knew what to expect. The biggest question mark in this offense was their running game after they lost Cam Akers. He stayed pretty consistent for the most part. If Darrell Henderson was healthy to start the year, he was the guy getting the touches. Once he got banged up, Sony Michel became the guy. Wasn't much of a split. And then all of a sudden, come playoff time, once Cam Akers got healthy, he was the guy once again in the backfield. It shows us that Sean McVay is kind of away from that running back by committee that we saw maybe even just last year, where Malcolm Brown was still sprinkled into the mix from time to time. Really confusing. It shows that going forward, Cam Akers is going to be the lead guy, and they're going to be a high-powered passing offense with tons of weapons. Matthew Stafford going to have a high ceiling weekly. Going into the season expecting big numbers, we got it from the guys that we were expecting from in LA, so that's why Sean McVay is number 3. Number 2, what about Brandon Staley of the other LA team, the Los Angeles Chargers? You look at Austin Eckler, you look at Keenan Allen, Mike Williams for a portion of the season. Now, Mike Williams well outperformed his ADP the first half of the season. Then all of a sudden, the guy just disappeared, and people got pissed and forgot that they drafted him where they drafted him. There wasn't super high expectations from Mike Williams when you probably drafted him. He was somebody that's probably buried on your bench. You got a few great weeks to start the season, and then as he tailed off there, second half of the season, you couldn't really use him consistently. But Austin Eckler, as long as he was on the field, wasn't really splitting touches. If he was splitting touches, they weren't the critical touches. He was getting the goal line carries. He was involved in the passing game. He's definitely what you would expect from an Austin Eckler, and we saw that in his fantasy production, finishing as the overall running back 2 in fantasy football. Keenan Allen, super safe, super consistent, continued to do what Keenan Allen does each and every year. Maybe not amazingly overwhelming, but super safe and consistent. And the offense that they run in LA gives Justin Herbert that opportunity for huge ceilings every single week. I have Brandon Staley at number 2, which leaves us only number 1. And this is a little crazy to think about, because this guy was not my favorite coach last season. And then all of a sudden just totally flipped the script here this year. It's Zach Taylor of the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, sure, the Bengals have surprised a lot of people this year, myself included. They've definitely exceeded expectations. But we saw them commit to a running back. They didn't get cute with Samaje Perine and Joe Mixon. They rode Joe Mixon. They drafted Jamar Chase early. They used Jamar Chase early. He wasn't just somebody who was drafted, got a few targets now and again. No, he was definitely a part of their game plan. T. Higgins, another one of those guys that you could go out on a weekly basis, get close to 8 to 10 targets a week, and rely on him maybe as a flex play, a wide receiver 3 if needed in your league. You just knew what to expect from this offense, and it didn't change all year long. Some of that has to do with Joe Burrow in this offense and that connection with Jamar Chase, but they kind of told you what they were going to do in the preseason. They told you on draft night, hey, we want Jamar Chase. We're going to use this guy. A lot of people want to shake their heads and be like, nah, they're going to say that. But no, they actually stuck to their word. They used the guy, and Jamar Chase was a huge surprise for a lot of people in fantasy football. There's always going to be Joe Mixon haters out there. It doesn't matter how good he does or how bad he does. There's always going to be hate surrounding Joe Mixon. Don't really understand it. It's kind of weird in my opinion, but Joe Mixon is an elite level running back. And once they committed to him fully this year, like we saw, we all reap the rewards from it. So Zach Taylor, going to be my number 1 coach here of coaches that love your fantasy football team. But come on, let's be honest. This is all up for interpretation. There's nothing scientific saying which one of these guys loves your team the most. I mean, this is one of those episodes that we like to do for fun and just start some communication back and forth with you, the viewer, down below in the comment section. So leave me a comment down below. Who do you think are the coaches that love your fantasy teams the most? Maybe there's somebody out there that I didn't mention. Leave them down below and give me a few reasons as to why you think they love your fantasy football team. We love to be interactive here, and I'm looking forward to those comments down below. But do me a favor, hit the like button if you could. It greatly helps out the channel here on YouTube, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Looking to build a huge 2022 year here this year with you, Headliner Nation. So hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day, a great week. We'll talk to you later.